Hello, stinkies, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Hellblade 2. This was one of my most anticipated games for the year, maybe right under Hades 2, which, I mean, timing-wise, just great. I've been eating good, and I'm really excited to talk about it today. But real quick, before we actually do, I just want to give a quick spoiler warning. After this point, I'm getting deep into spoilers, so if you haven't had a chance to play the game yet, go do that, come back, my video will still be here. Also, all the footage you're seeing today comes straight from my streams. I stream right here on YouTube, on this channel. Come say hi, let's talk about some of this stuff live. This game might just be the most beautiful, prettiest, best looking game I have ever played. This is phenomenal. And this is what I think most current gen games should look like at this point. And the fact that most games don't is a little disappointing, but also I think that just makes me appreciate Hellblade 2 even more. On top of looking amazing, this game sounds amazing. Listening to Hellblade 1 and Hellblade 2 with headphones on is a phenomenal experience. An experience that I don't think most games, I don't think any game, at least that I've played, has ever truly matched. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of other games with amazing audio experiences, but the Hellblade games just hit different. Between the voices in Senua's head, the actual cast of characters that are talking, the sound design for the world and effects, and the music that's playing, it is an audio experience, and Ninja Theory did not disappoint. In terms of gameplay, I think they did pretty good. The puzzles I played were all fun. It was a mix of the visual puzzles from the first game where you had to go find the symbol within the world to open a door, but there were new puzzles where essentially you had to go find 3 balls to go put in these pedestals that would also open the path. But also this introduced a visual world shifting aspect where you could flip the world on itself, if that makes sense, to help you get through certain areas. And I really liked that variation of puzzle. Essentially, you're doing the same thing, just in a different font, but it was nice to have the variation. Combat was really good. One of the devs had made a statement that they were trying to improve combat. And if I'm being 100% honest, I didn't really feel much of a difference in terms of the actual fighting aspect of it, the button commands, the timing of everything. It felt very similar to the first game. The big difference, though, is this one felt a lot more cinematic. Your camera's locked in as you're fighting one foe at a time. But what I think is really cool is you often find these sequences of you defeat an enemy, and then there's this just really quick cutscene of the next enemy coming in, and it could be a large variety of things. Maybe they'll grab you and pull you away from the enemy that you just fought, or they'll ram into you, or they might throw a spear or an axe at you, and then the camera angle shifts as you go to fight that next enemy, and in the background there's other people fighting, and it just feels like you're in this really epic fight, and I really, really enjoy that. Now, I will say, I don't know if I enjoy it more than the way that Hellblade did it. Hellblade's combat was also really good. Instead of being super cinematic, you had to sometimes fight multiple enemies at once, and you had to time yourself to block one enemy, maybe block another, attack somebody else, and that was also really fun. So I wouldn't say one experience is better than the other, but I really enjoyed both. In terms of boss fights, there are 3 major ones, 2 giants, and then a Viking, I think, Northmen for sure. The first giant was amazing. You're running through this volcano, trying to avoid actual blasts from the volcano, and every blast is on beat with the music.
Ingun, I can help you.
Yoink. That is so amazing. So cool. That was one of the coolest experiences I've had playing a video game. Then, the second giant, the one that we see in the trailer, was a very similar experience, but instead of avoiding volcano blasts, you were holding on to rocks to try and avoid getting pushed out into the ocean. Just being 100% honest, I still loved it, but I do wish there would have been a little more variation on what you actually were doing, because essentially you're doing the exact same thing, just in a different font, and it was still good. It's just that newness, that excitement to it just wasn't there. And then the final boss is a Northman, and he was just a dude, really, but he was actually kind of difficult to fight, if I'm being honest. Out of all the dudes that you fight in the game, he definitely was the most difficult, and it took me a few tries to actually beat him. And it was so surreal because, like, the other two boss fights were these big, like, cinematic moments, and this one just felt a lot more personal, and I really enjoyed that. I think a lot of people were expecting a fight like the end of Hellblade, the first one, but this one just meant so much to the game. The whole point of the game is Senua went to this land to try and stop the slavers from stealing her people, and this was the guy. He was the one that was stealing her people, at least the one commanding it. And I think I may have misunderstood the story just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it was revealed that he also was somehow creating the giants so that he could use the fear to control his people. So this whole game, you're trying to, her two objectives, save her people, stop the giants, all come down to fighting this guy. And I can understand why some people thought it wasn't that epic, because it's not this big set piece, but I think story-wise, it was the perfect ending for the game, and the perfect final boss for the game. Talking about story, obviously talked about the giants, the bosses, blah, 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 but these games like to deal with mental health and trauma, and again, Ninja Theory did not disappoint. So in the first game, a lot of it is looking inward at Senua and the problems that she faced, and her trauma, and her bad childhood, and the abuse that she went through, and her loss. And this game still deals with Senua and what's going on with her, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but also it deals with the trauma of others. Your three friends that help you throughout the game have all gone through their own traumas and their own hardships, and you have to help them through it, which is really cool. On top of that, the two giants that you fight, essentially their boss fights, when you break it down, is just a therapy session. You're doing a little therapy on them, you're healing their inner child, and then they die. But I loved it because you had to, like, go through and find their real name, and you find out about their story and what led them to become these giants. And it's just really emotional and deep. But then there's also this aspect of you're helping all these people throughout the game, but the final boss, obviously you try and help him too, but he refuses it. He wants to keep things the way they are, and I think that's such a great representation of the fact that you just can't change and you just can't help everybody. But that doesn't mean your efforts were for nothing. Something that Senua really deals with throughout the story of this game is the failure and all of the lives that she's lost and all the people that died because she couldn't save them. And it's really deep. And then by the end of the game, she realizes, like, oh, I have failed, but also there are countless lives that I have saved, especially in this new land, stopping the giants and stopping this guy from making and controlling the giants. Like, she saved all of these people, and it's this really, like, beautiful moment as all these hands reach out to her, and, like, it's the cover art for the game, and it's very ominous. But then you play through the game and you realize, oh wait, this is actually a symbol of hope, a symbol of victory, and I just love that so much. This is a very deep game. The first one was as well. I don't know, there are just few gaming experiences like this, and I am so happy that I got the chance to play it. Now, I'd like to take a couple minutes, just because there's been some discourse on this, to talk about the actual length of the game versus the price of the game. You can, if you rush through, beat the game in about 5 or 6 hours. And then, if you want to do 100%, get all the collectibles, it's about 10 hours. But then also you can do a second playthrough where you can change the narrators for the story, which then would add another 5-6 hours. You probably wouldn't have to go do the collectibles again unless you wanted to. So really, you're looking at a 5 to 20 hour experience based on how much you want to put into the game. which I personally am okay with. But I'm gonna be completely honest, if you go back and watch through my streams, it's very evident that, like, I thought the game was gonna be longer. Like, I made multiple guesses about how there'd be, like, 2 or 3 more bosses after beating the second boss, and that just was not the case. And I don't know. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping it would be longer. But at the same time, I am so just happy with the experience I had. Like, I adored this game. So it's really left me feeling weird about it. And yes, I 100% could go do another playthrough with the voices, change the voices, you know, get some more hours into it. But I just felt like the game was supposed to be longer. Like, if I'm being 100% honest, I really feel like they had more planned for this game, but just couldn't make it happen. To Hellblade's credit, you know, a lot of gamers complain about how games release unfinished, buggy, filled with microtransactions. Hellblade 2 is none of those things. It is a complete story, beginning to end, it's done. I don't think I experienced a single bug in the entire game, at least not big enough for me to actually notice. I didn't notice any, like, frame rate issues, nothing. And there's not a single cosmetic pack, not a single microtransaction, and I think a lot of gamers are going to be really happy with this experience. It's what a lot of us have been wanting for a long time. But again, it is very short, and we need to talk about the elephant in the room. It is a $50 game. Now, I'd seen people comparing it to AAA prices, so I went in thinking, oh, this is going to be a $70 game? That's crazy. It's only $50, which 50 is still a lot, especially for the length of the game. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I personally don't know how happy I would have been if I bought this at market price. I played on Game Pass, had an amazing time, and I'm so happy with it. But I just don't know if it's $50 worth of game, if I'm being completely honest. I think if you play this game, you are going to really, really enjoy it. But I just don't feel comfortable recommending this game at market price. Like, if you're going to be playing on Steam, I would wait till it comes out on sale. If you're playing on Xbox and you don't have Game Pass, I think this game would be worth getting a month of Game Pass to play. Especially because you get it, have an amazing evening playing the game, and then you still have a whole nother month of other games you can play. But then on the other hand, it's so fun. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. The story is really deep and really good. And so it's like, yeah, even though it's a shorter experience, those 6 hours I had playing were so fun. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this whole situation. I'd love to talk to you more about it. As I've said many times already, this year has been banger after banger after banger. And Hellblade 2 is just another one to add to the list. Anyway, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure and hit that like and subscribe button or else you'll get turned into a giant with trauma. Goodbye, everybody!